what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. How many times have we heard that? Cliche? Maybe. But don't let that phrase go over your head. It supports the notion that when going through challenging or traumatic experiences and living to tell the tale means that you've come out on the other side with an abundance of wisdom. I want you to think about a time in your life when you went through something traumatic. A time that felt so dark, you probably couldn't even see the light at the end of the tunnel. How did you feel? Now, if you can look back at those times and realize you are a stronger person today, raise your hand. Exactly, amazing. I love that. You see, when facing adversity, it helps us develop a better understanding about ourselves, the world we live in, the people we relate to, and how to live better lives overall. I've worked with thousands of people, helping them develop a growth mindset so they can break through their limited beliefs and master their destiny. What I'm about to share with you today are 3 things that changed my life and 3 things that you can use to change yours. I call them my 3 Ps: purpose, personal development, and polarity. Now, what I've gained over the last couple of years has been amazing. But once upon a time, 15 years ago, I was standing in an airport in the Caribbean about to leave my mum and little brother to return to the UK. Now, you're probably thinking, well, what was he doing there in the first place, right? You see, back in school, because I'm dyslexic, I was always behind my peers. It made me be frustrated. I ended up getting in trouble with the teachers, and eventually I started to rebel against the school system. The teachers didn't understand me. I got kicked out of school with not a single GCSE. Now, getting kicked out of school and coming from a Caribbean background just does not work at all right? My mum, she was tough, all right? And she decided to discipline me by sending me across the Atlantic Ocean to live in the Caribbean with my grandparents. Now, I know what you're thinking, guys. The Caribbean, not too bad. Sunny beaches, jerk chicken, rice and peas, a bit of reggae music. You like that one, innit? Reggae music. You see, your idea of the Caribbean was not my reality. Seeing people living in a raw environment with a lack of resources humbled me. But seeing how they was resourceful with what they had was probably the most inspiring thing I've ever seen. So after being out there for a year, being in a different environment, understanding a different culture, I felt like my mind was growing and I was ready to come back to the UK. And my mum agreed. She agreed that she would send me back, but she had to stay behind to look after my grandparents. So as I was standing in that airport, my mum looking at me saying, son, please be careful. And my little brother looking at me like, bro, please do not leave me. That was one of the hardest decisions I had to make. But I knew that decision was going to turn me from a boy into a man. And as I walked through that departure lounge, as I was about to board that plane, looking back at my mum and little brother, in that moment, I realized that was my purpose. That was my reason why. There's a quote that says, he who has a strong why can bear almost anyhow. Viktor Frankl says the single fundamental thing for human existence is to find meaning. So when we overcome our hurdles, when we overcome our struggles, that is powered by our purpose. So what is yours? What's your purpose? What is your soul desire? What is your life calling? But how do I find that? Is the question I get asked most of the time. You see, the quality of your life will be based on the quality of questions you ask yourself. What are your values? What are your beliefs? What energizes you? The one question that gives me goosebumps when on the road to self-discovery is, if you was to die 1 year from today, what would you do and how would you want to be remembered? 15 years old, I came back to the UK. My parents were not around me. Living in a tough area with my auntie, facing, yes, another challenge. How do I apply everything I've just learned in the Caribbean in an environment that doesn't support my values? It was tough. And as time went on, challenges kept coming. I was targeted. My auntie's house was attacked. People wanted to bring me down, and my friends were going on the wrong path. And I realized it was my environment that was stifling my growth. You see, if you put a shark in a fish tank, it will grow 8 inches. Put that same shark in the ocean, it will grow 8 foot or more. Your environment is everything. And as I changed my environment, I came across personal development, and I dived into it. It was like an obsession. I read the books. I read about amazing entrepreneurs that have come from backgrounds similar to me, that have made something for themselves. I went to the networking events, the seminars, to put myself in places with other people that are aligned to my mission in life. And on my personal development journey, I found some amazing techniques. How to set goals, how to visualize and reprogram your mind so you can attract things into your life that you desire. I went from getting kicked out of school to being an award-winning change maker. I even had an interview with Lionel Richie. And that was easy like Sunday morning, to be honest. Now, as you are on your journey of success or you're striving for something, you're going to face challenges. COVID-19, the dreaded virus, something that's impacted us all in some form of capacity. The stress, the worry, the anxieties were all universal emotions. But as I talk about universal emotions, I want to talk about the universal law of polarity. Polarity states that everything is dual in nature. Everything has its polar opposites, 2 sides just like a coin, the yin and the yang. There's no good without bad, and there is no bad without good. You can't love without hate, and you cannot hate without love. And it's funny because you can apply the law of polarity to your own characteristics. Now listen, I'm motivated. When it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to personal development, I am motivated. But if you ask my missus on the evening to pack the dish, when my missus asks me to pack the dishwasher on the evening, I ain't so motivated. She thinks I'm a lazy so-and-so sometimes. And most of you guys look very humble. But I bet when you're playing Monopoly on Christmas and you're winning, I bet you could be a bit cocky, right? But that's polarity. It's about owning both sides, both traits. So when I think about polarity and I think about COVID, I'm thinking, is it a curse or does it have its hidden blessings? You see, COVID-19 rippled through our communities like throwing a pebble in a sea. And I was impacted. My businesses completely stopped. I was thinking, how am I even going to keep the lights on? But just like many of us, I had to tap into my creativity, my resilience, and my resourcefulness. I had to make it work. My back was against the wall. And then, boom, I found Zoom. Raise your hand if you've done a lot of Zooming over the pandemic. We all did. One business stopped. I started an international coaching business online where I now impact people around the world through Zoom in my bedroom. In my bedroom. It's amazing. Now, that's me just before probably one of my most important Zoom calls of my life. Look at me. Look how happy I look. The reason I'm that happy is because I actually have on pajama bottoms. And that's it. Life's about balance, right? Polarity. Polarity. And this is my mum. She visited me over the summer holidays, and she came here for New Year's and Christmas. And while she was on holiday, unfortunately, she contracted the dreaded virus and died within 3 weeks. It's tough. And as that doctor told me, she died on the ventilator, my heart dropped and my life came crashing down in an instant. Why me? Why my mum? She was only here on a holiday. I had to use the law of polarity to balance my perspective. There cannot be loss without gain. Now, I don't need to tell you, I'm sure you can imagine how I was feeling and how I still feel. But what did I gain? That's what I wanted to focus on. I now have a deeper sense of purpose. I have a more fulfilled mission because I want to continue the legacy she left in me and that she's left on this earth. And I want to share her values. She was amazing. She still is amazing. So when you're going through something hard, when you're going through loss, whether it's marriage or a business, use the law of polarity to balance your perspective. There can be no curse without its hidden messages and blessings. One thing that I learned from my mum's life is it's not what you take with you, it's what you leave in other people. I love this quote. Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. Live a fulfilled life. Do not take your goals, your ideas to the graveyard. Take action now. So I ask you one more time, if you are to die 1 year from today, what would you do and how would you want to be remembered? Thank you, guys. That's my story, my life.